If I see that ring start to get a little too damn dark, I will take that scrubbing brush while I'm taking a shower and scrub down the toilet, scrub the tiles. You know, if I see a little bit too much of my hair around the sink, I'm going to start spritzing down with the Clorox and wipe that shit down. Wipe down the dust around the toilet, sweep out my bathroom. Anytime I see too much of my hair collecting around, you know, sweep it up, clean it up.
It's basic maintenance.
Basic maintenance. Yeah. He was not big on that.
Right.
So much so, and I will even let this shit slip. When I first moved in, I had to make a trip to Home Depot, and I spent several double-digit dollars on supplies to clean his bathroom. And it was a shock to me because I thought the grout on his tiles were gray. They were actually white. They were just so dirty that they had grade. Okay, because he was not big on mopping. Like I mop. I don't mop all the time, but I actually know when to mop in my house because I start like getting like sneezy, like there's too much dust accumulating in the area. That means you got to start dusting, because if you're sneezing, it's dusty. It's too damn dusty in the house. And I start mopping and wiping things down, and he wasn't like that.
Right.
So things like that. Of course, and then, you know, as a woman and a man, you have the toilet bowl debate where it's like lid up, lid down, lid up, lid down, that bullshit. Then it became a matter of like cooking, right? Because I cooked, he didn't. Right. So then that became another instant, because I'm a person, when I cook, I usually cook kind of like in a meal prep kind of way. I cook just enough to see me through for a few days and then cook again to see me through another few days.
Right.
He barely cooked. He always mostly ate out or bought food.
Yeah.
And usually for a day.
Right.
So if I cooked for 3 days, he was eating all of that food that night.
Oh.
Which then put me in a position to have to be cooking almost every day or every other day.
Right.
Which is not what my routine is, which made me tired. And that brings me back to your conversation about sex.
Yes.
When people move in together, yes, there is a less sex. And I will say, at the very least for me, there was less sex in our household. Not so much because, we were living together, but because of the fact that when we weren't living together, every time we saw each other, which was maybe once or twice a week, we had sex, because of the whole thing of, well, I don't know when I'll see you next week, so let me get some now, because I might see you next week, or you might be too busy next week, and I might not see you, whatever.
Exactly.
So when we're living together, it's like, well, the vagina's sleeping next to you every night. Yes. So like, you don't have to be like so hard up. Right. It's not going anywhere. Right, it's right there. Right. It's in your face sometimes.
Exactly.
Like, it's literally in your face.
Like,
literally
like
in your face.
Away.
like inches away from you.
Right.
It's there.
Right.
So the demand for sex, at the very least on my end, went down, because I'm like, well, I'm seeing you. The dick is right there. Like, I'm not that pressed.
Right.
If I know I'm coming home to it every day, and if I want some in the middle of the night, I can just hop on it and hop off. Like, it's really not that big a deal.
Right.
But his sex drive remained as high as it had always been. So then, of course, there was that whole, like, I want some, I want some, I want some. And the issue, again, is if I'm cooking every other day and you're not offering to cook because you don't want to change your lifestyle to meet mine, I'm tired. Right. So we had to meet in the middle. And that was one of our contentions, was that we could not meet in the middle.
Got you.
And I believe that if we had cohabitated just a little bit before we got married, we would have had a better understanding of how the other person operated in private. Because essentially, when you live on your own, you're living in private. And what typically should happen when you're cohabitating is that the way you live in private, you should be living in private, but with somebody else there watching you to kind of like observe and see how you live on your own. And then, again, meet in the middle, compromise. Okay, well, you like the toilet paper, you know, hanging down, while I like the toilet paper from underneath. How do we, rectify that? Okay, well, when you put it, it can stay the way you like it. And when you do it, it can be the way you do it, as opposed to being it all my way and all your way or whatever. Right. There is to be some kind of, I almost want to say, like, I feel like cohabitation, at the very least, for serious couples and for couples that are looking to take it further.
Yeah.
You have to be an anthropologist.
Yeah.
When you cohabitate.
Yeah,
you literally have to sit and watch one another's ticks and habits and what it is and mark those things.
Yes.
And much to you and your
Mia Farrow, Woody Allen.
Yeah, your Mia Farrow and your Woody Allen.
Yeah, they did say that on Sex and the City. The separate togetherness.
And your what was her last name? I keep forgetting. Was it Carrie?
Carrie Bradshaw.
Carrie Bradshaw. Sorry.
Yes.
Your Carrie Bradshaw. Because what was the thing with Carrie? Right, when she and Aiden got engaged, and he had broken down the wall in the. He had bought the other apartment, and he wanted to break it down for them to be together. And she was like, "I just need my damn space."
Yes.
She told him, "Listen, when we come home, I need 1 hour
by
1 myself.
Right.
Just 1 hour alone."
Right.
And so that's kind of like me, right? So that's, I'm like, you have to be a little anthropologist and sit back and say, okay, what does my partner need when we cohabitate?
Right.
If they need that 1 hour to themselves to relax, I can give them that 1 hour to relax, right? Because that's their private time. That's their time.
Yes.
If my partner needs to go through a certain routine in order to make it work, then you can make one of two real viable options I look at. You can either say, I'm going to let them do whatever they do, or you're going to say, you know what, let's figure out how to integrate the routines together, which is what I think people who successfully cohabitate do. If it's if I know that I get up, I make a smoothie, I brush my teeth, and then I wash my hair, and then you use the bathroom at some point in the morning around that time, then you figure out, how do we meet such that I can use the bathroom when you're washing your hair, that doesn't disturb you from washing your hair, but allows me to do whatever it is I need to do, or, just a little bit before, a little after.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
So I think a lot of that has to go into that. And I feel like for me, I felt like it was super important that I had that time, and I didn't get to have that time because, again, following social constructs and all that other stuff like that, all of the nonsense, which I shouldn't have done, kind of prohibited me from doing that. But I think it's absolutely necessary, because you need to see how the other half lives. You really need to see, what is your comfort level? What makes you comfortable versus what makes me comfortable?
Right.
And how do we work around bringing the two together? Because if your comfort level is on a high and mine is on a low, where can we fit this in for the two of us? And ultimately, if that can't work, then guess what? As Vincent said, you gotta learn how to be separate and together.
Yeah, exactly. And
be separate and together.
Right. And then when you're making, I feel like, to piggyback what you were saying, I think a good thing to do, a good practice would be, if you are gonna move in together, is as a couple, a non-married couple, is to have that serious talk and figure out what works, what doesn't work. Get the pros and cons out there. Get your routines. Get your habits out. And then too, I always preface these kinds of interactions with knowing who you're with, because again, people bring all kinds of traumas and neuroses with them. And if you're with someone, I won't say if you're with the right person, but I'll say, if you're with someone that's their narrative and they're working on it, and they may be triggered or whatever the case is, you have to have that talk, and you have to get them to understand why it's necessary for you to have whatever the situation, whatever caveat you need, whatever it is that you're trying to create, because, if they have abandonment issues or whatever.
And so they act a certain way.
Right. And they may see that that may trigger that. But if you're with that person, you're going to know that you have to work through that so that you can get what you want, because on the flip side, you're going to give in because of this trauma and neuroses, and then both of you are going to be unhappy because there's a reason why that is, because you're not getting that moment to decompress. You're not getting that moment, or whatever it is, whatever the moment you need, you're not getting it because you're trying to protect your partner's I'll just say situation. But if you have these quirks, I'll say, or these needs, and you are going to move in together, then I feel like it's necessary to have that conversation, because it's not going to be successful if you don't communicate. excuse me, and it's just not going to work. Like you mentioned earlier about how people who successfully live together, they find ways to integrate their habits or work around them. And I agree with that 100%. Because, speaking personally, and having to navigate people's traumas and how serious that is, and how sometimes you get in moods where you don't care about that trauma because your needs haven't been met because you've been too concerned about that trauma. Excuse me. So, but anyway, whatever the case is, I had to work through that, say what I was feeling, be assertive about it, stand my ground, assure that person that it wasn't about blah, 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 and it wasn't to activate blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But this needed to happen because I am feeling this way. And because I am feeling this way, then this isn't going to happen overall in our relationship because I am unhappy because that's not happening. And the reason why I'm doing it from my point of view is because, I can only speak from my point of view.
Yes.
And I can only speak from dealing with someone in the past who has neuroses and traumas. Now, if you don't have to deal with that, then that's different. But
Yeah.
I just want to throw that in there because not everyone has a partner that understands these needs.
Yes.
And they
Absolutely.
they'll react a certain way. And I know a lot of us, and some of y'all may be with people out there who are dealing with mental and personality disorders, and
Absolutely.
you don't even know.
And you don't know. And that actually ties in perfectly to what I was going to say next, which is the idea that there is a saying, I don't know if I want to say it's the West Indies, but whatever, at least, at the very least, it's something that's said a lot in Trinidad, which is come see me and come live with me are two different things, right? Meaning that a person will present who they are to you because they're always going to present their best self to you when you're not around them, right? When you're not around to see their true self, they're going to present their best self to you. It's the same thing if you go on a job interview. You're going to go, you want to impress the employer, right? So you're going to have your best foot forward. You're going to make sure that you say all the right things at the right time. Make sure that you smile on cue, you firm handshake, all that good shit, right? Because you want to get the job, right? So you want to get the person. You stitch the person, right? That's my partner now. And then come live with me, then you realize that they had all these bad habits, right? Next thing you know, the person who you thought was like super great and super healthy is out here eating 15 cheeseburgers at night at 3 a.m. in the morning. Like that's their tick, right? And they're chain smoking 1,500 cigarettes, but they just got this supersonic, super duper ultra fabulous toothpaste that just makes their breath taste like, fresh wintergreens and peppermint. You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
So there's it's two sides to it. Of course, like when you see the person and you're dating them and you're dating them, it's one component of who they are. Right. So the living aspect is another component, and it's a more intimate component of who they are. And that takes, I think, so much time to delve into that I personally believe that it is super necessary to touch on that, like you said, both emotionally, physically, spiritually, before you make such a major commitment, because there's a lot of people who they end up living together and that ends their relationship.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So many people we've been dating for X amount of years, and as soon as they live together, oh no, we had to break up because I found out that he out here eating his toemails, and she out here just leaving her panties all over the place, and got people seeing her skid marks. And he the kind of person, he be bringing all kinds of people in the house all hours of the night when I'm trying to sleep. Oh, and she snores too damn much. Oh yeah. And he farts in bed way too much. Yes. Like there's so much. You know what I mean?
You're right.
So much that can tear people apart because of the cohabitating aspect of it. And so I propose these two components. One, either you try it out and you try it out, right? And I would even go so far as to say that don't dive right into the cohabitating. I would go so far as to say do testers, right? If you're gonna wax or you're gonna do nail or hair cream, what do? You test a section first, see how it works, and then you put the rest on. So you would test. You would do a weekend. You might do a night.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you might do 2 nights, right? two nights, maybe every other week. Then you're going to do a weekend, every other weekend. Then you might want to do every weekend. Right. Then you might want to go from the weekend to a weekday, because there is a difference in how you operate on a weekend. Because of course you have extra hours to do whatever versus a weeknight, where it's like you have to be very strategic in how you spend your hours at that nighttime to make up in the morning for work, etc.
Absolutely.
Right. So weekends, then a weeknight, then you combine the two,